help me welcome today Dr. Nicole Mason, all the way from the East Coast, and I'm on the West Coast. Look at us today, going live.
Oh my goodness. I am so excited to be with you. I'm in awe of God to allow me to, always, follow your ministry and admire who you are in the earth. And I was sharing with you before we came on, and I think it's something that is appropriate for our time as we engage in this time together. The first time that I heard you speak at a women's conference, it was so powerful, and I was drawn to your beauty, to your realness, to your down-to-earthness, if you will. And one of the other things that I just was so impacted by, even to this day, was you were given one of the conference t-shirts, and the next day when you came down the next morning, you had cut that t-shirt up and you had made it your own. It was off the shoulder, similar to what you are wearing now, off the shoulder, very feminine, very sexy, very empowering. And that just really stuck with me, how you took that t-shirt, made it your own, and still inclusive, because of course the purpose of the t-shirt was for everybody to be inclusive, everybody to have the conference t-shirt, but just how you made it your own, that just really impacted me. And I just want you to know, I admire how you have shown up over the years. You have been doing this a long time. And so I'm just so thankful to be in this space with you, to share this time with you. So thank you so much for extending the opportunity.
Oh, bless your heart. It's amazing what people remember.
Exactly.
So I'm thankful that it was a positive impact. But my dear, you are a lawyer, you are a minister, you are an author, you're a wife, a mother, a grandmother, you do leadership training. Your resume, your bio is so impressive. And I do not want to cheat you. I want you to share in your words to my audience, who is Dr. Nicole Mason?
Thank you. And every time I hear that, I'm like, that's such a loaded question because there's so many parts to me, and just to sit there, even just to talk about those titles, all the way from wife to grandmother now, I married my college sweetheart. We've been together for 34 years. I cannot believe that. Met when I was 17 years old. He was 18. And now we're in our 50s, and just looking back on how good God has been to us through the trials, through the ups, through the downs, but yet love centered us. Yes, God. It was the power of love that centered us. And so, I'm a wife, I'm a mom, I'm a grandmother, and, the lawyer and the writer, all of those things are great. But at my core, I am an advocate for justice. I believe that we should be striving to do what's right. And for me, what's right is taking the word of God and applying it to our lives appropriately so that we can make change in the earth. And so that's what I do wherever I am. In the sacred and the secular, I am all about doing what's right, following what's right, being a person of integrity. And so I appreciate God because he's allowed me to accomplish much in my short time on earth. And I thank him for it. I don't take any credit. I thank God for placing deep in my heart from the age of 9 to be a lawyer. I wanted to be a lawyer since I was 9 years old.
Isn't that something?
And, saw Perry Mason. I loved Perry Mason.
Oh, my goodness. So what field of being a lawyer, what are you in? Criminal justice, a family court, or?
Right. So I do equal employment opportunity civil rights work.
Civil rights. Okay.
So I am a civil rights attorney by day. a planning attorney by night.
Wow.
And so I've been doing equal employment opportunity, civil rights, my entire federal career, which is now more than 30 years. Cannot believe that. I started as a stay-in-school student and worked my way all the way up to a senior manager, which I am now. And throughout my career, I've been the first of many. Even my current position, the first African American and the first African American woman. And, you know, God has sent me to places, and even in my preaching, I have preached at many churches where I was the first woman preacher to grace the pulpit. And so there is an energy, I believe, that comes with that kind of trailblazing. And I know that you know that energy very well. Because that's what you are and have been, a trailblazing woman. And so I take all of those parts of me to whatever space I'm in. And so, you know, I've come to know that God has strategically placed me in places to break up fallow ground. He knows I'm not afraid to speak up and speak out, and I will. And I was just sharing with someone earlier today, when I show up, I know that in an organizational setting, there is some systemic change that needs to take place.
Come on. Yeah.
And I know without a shadow of a doubt that I've been sent there to do that. And it has not always been easy, of course, but God has given the grace to do the kind of work that he's called me to do.
I've seen your campaign over the years called Show Up Great. Am I correct? Mm-hmm. Show Up Great.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like that.
Thank you.
Is that the title of one of your books?
So it's not, but I am working on the first Show Up Great in Your Life book. I am. And it's going to be a series. I'm going to be doing a series on showing up great in your life, show up great in your leadership, show up great in mentoring. So it's going to be a series. But that mantra came from my mom. And my mom, she passed away. It'll be 16 years this year. Can't believe it. It always feels like just yesterday. But she would always say to me, Nicole, it's not about what you have on. It's about how you show up. And what she's saying, it's about you showing up in spaces, knowing that you deserve to be there, not asking for permission to be in the room. I never sit on the periphery of a room. I always sit at the table, and really understanding that, you know, no one has given us anything when we are there, but really showing up in our fullness, in our presence, our authenticity, our confidence, that not only should I be here, but I also have something of value and worth to contribute to the space. So for me, showing up great is showing up in your excellence, knowing that you stand on the broad shoulders of people who've gone before you. And that's why I feel so honored today, because I feel the same way about you, standing on your shoulders, you know, doing this empowerment work with women and speaking, you know, around the world, and the great things that you've done. I just feel honored, like, you know, looking at you and seeing the grace that God has given you and the beauty and your spirit energy, and you're still blessing people. That gives me the courage and the oomph, if you will, to keep going. So thank you for showing up great.
You know, Dr. Nicole, when you said that, it really sparked something in me, because it's been 35, 36 years ago that I started, before you got married. And I remember saying in my infancy of the speaking career, when I didn't see any of the Black women doing what we do, I remember thinking, God, if the only thing that happens is that they see another woman that looks like them, if that's the only influence I can have, God, because I don't know what I'm going to say. I don't know how this journey is going to turn out. But I was so convicted that it was time for me to be on stage and hold a microphone and be behind podiums and pulpits. I knew that without a shadow of my doubt, but I didn't know how it was going to develop. But I always said, Lord, if other women could see me and say, well, if she can do it, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Release that anointing, release that power, that courage, and that the boldness. But
Yeah.
what I'm thinking about, Dr. Nicole, is there are some people that are watching right now that had an evolutionary curve like me. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
start off or come into this world with a boldness. I didn't come into this world with a voice. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
come into this world, or even my marriage, really knowing who I was. I didn't, self-esteem meant nothing to me. I tried so many things. I tried so many jobs. Um, I was a people pleaser. I was searching.
Mm-hmm.
And as I served and as I wrote my books and as I mentored and as I grew, it's like my wings grew, my voice grew, my self-esteem grew. But
Mm-hmm.
as I hear you talk, I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
You said you wanted to be a lawyer since you were 9 years old. Did you always have this fire in your belly? Did you always have this sense of, I know what I was born to do and I'm going to pursue it? Was it linear for you? For me, it wasn't linear. It was like, let's
Mm-hmm.
try this, let's try that, let's go over here.
Mm-hmm.
But I always knew that everything I was doing was temporary. I always knew that. And the minute I said yes to God, I'm going to quit my full-time job in
Mm-hmm.
1984,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to just start speaking. I heard people like
Wow.
Jim Rohn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I heard Les Brown. He was the first man of color that I saw doing motivational speaking. And I
Mm-hmm.
brought him to LA in the
Mm-hmm.
80s.
Yeah.
And still, I had not seen any women doing what I'm doing and what you're doing. So for you to say that you feel like you're standing on my shoulders, I'm like, Lord,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
here I am. If
Yeah.
that if that's the influence I could have, I take no credit. But I love hearing women like you that are saying, I knew what I wanted to do. Was it
Mm-hmm.
linear for you? Did you just go straight for it?
So the first thing I want to say is I believe that we are all impacted by what we are given as messages coming up as kids. So let me just start there. And I came up with messages from my mom, my dad, my grandmother, that I could do anything I wanted to do.
Wow. Yeah.
And, that may have been because I was an only child, right?
Oh, okay. All right.
So, how people always say, oh, the only children just spoil, and I always let them know, no, I was just loved, right? So
That's right.
it becomes a running joke. But so my grandmother was a business owner. She had an 8th grade education, and she and my grandfather migrated from Saluda, South Carolina to Washington, D.C., and they opened up a dry cleaners. And so really all I saw around me were strong women. All I saw around me were women encouraging me and, telling me I could do whatever I wanted to do. And then, I had a father, who really unleashed something in me when he told me one day never to let anybody put me in a box. And I just declared that unleashed something in me from that day to this. And so for me, I knew I wanted to be a lawyer when I was 9, and I just never opted for anything else. I never opted for anything else, even when I was rejected from applying, when I made application to law school 9 times in a row. 9 times. And on the 10th time, not only did I get accepted, but the dean of admissions called me and told me that I could come to the school to get my orientation materials and to attend the orientation. Well, when I walked in, Dr. Jewel, I could hear some of the people sitting in the galley, that's what they call those big rooms where you can look down at the professor. I could hear people gasping for air because when I walked in there, I was big, round, and pregnant. They're like, what?
Oh, all right.
They're like, what? Is she going to try this? Yeah. Because in my mind, by that point, God had saved me. He had gripped my heart. And I just felt like God knew I was pregnant at the time that he opened the door, just like God knew I was a woman when he called me to preach. Just like he called the first preacher who was a woman, but that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother time, right? And so I just went for it, and I also feel like, confidence was something that was bred into me just from the messaging that I received. And I've been on a mission from the time that God has called me to do the same for other women.
Amen.
To build up their confidence and to encourage them and push them. And I have been able to help scores of women go back to school, get their PhDs, go back to school to get their high school diplomas, everything in between, help women to go to make it to the senior levels in the federal government, et cetera, et cetera. But all of that had everything to do with, I believe, the messaging that I received, and just really knowing that I needed to be a lawyer because I was always told I had the gift of gab, and I was always in fights that didn't have anything to do with me.
Well, I love how you got the secular and the sacred integrated. It's seamless. Mm-hmm. And I love the fact that on this show today, there's a juxtaposition of opposites in the fact that one person was programmed, socialized, cultivated, empowered as a young girl, and look at the results. And then you have me. I didn't have those messages. I'm not blaming anyone. I'm just saying that I was self-made. Mm-hmm. I had to go through many doors and go through many missteps to finally say, this is what I was born to do. Mm-hmm. And I think this is a great contrast for my audience today, because not everybody is walking in my shoes as a child, and everybody walked in your shoes. Right. And they need to know there's nothing wrong with you. Mm-hmm. There are some women that are waking up after having breast cancer. There's some women that are waking up after the pandemic. There's some women that are waking up after an empty nest or after a bitter divorce, coming out of addiction or coming out of church hurt, or being let go of their job or retiring and saying, oh my God, I finally figured out what I'm supposed to be doing. And I don't want those women to feel any shame. We're all different. We all have a different path. Mm-hmm. But I believe that you and I and others like us that have this passion are here to be midwives, to say to them, you can do it, honey. Yes, you can. It's never too late. Mm-hmm. We're living longer lives than our mothers and grandmothers. Mm-hmm. We have more options. Mm-hmm. We have more resources. We have disposable time. But what I'm finding, Dr. Nicole, is that we still have a lot of healing to do, a lot of inner work to do. Yeah. Tell me, as you put your finger on the pulse of our sisters today, what are you seeing are some of the hurt or hindrances that women are dealing with?
Sure. And that's a good question. And I want to, before I answer that, Dr. Jewel, I just want to make a statement about the point of the contrast between the two of us, not only in environment, but also generational. There is a generational difference. Mm-hmm. And I think really taking that into consideration, this is going to lead me right into your question, that we have to take all of that into consideration. You came from a time when, women were not pushed the way that I was pushed. See, right. You are the generation of my mom's age. And my mom was very adamant about pushing me because she did not get some of that same kind of push because of the environment and the generational things that were happening at the time. And this is why I think it's so important for the generations when we get together, that we support each other, because I really am the reflection of you, and vice versa. And that's how it flows. And then what happens for those women who you were talking about, there is what we call in my world, in the diversity world, something called a significant emotional event that happens to us.
Exactly.
This is how we begin to change in the secular and the sacred. And I have, found that there have been women who have been dealing with, of course, childhood abuse,
Mm-hmm.
and how that translates into the kinds of relationships that they end up in. And I've always contended that when you are victimized as a child, there are some things that are broken in around you. What I mean broken, it's like to me, and I'm a visual learner, it's like to me, the signs that would be intact, but for that abuse, they're no longer there. So sometimes when people have been victimized as children, they can't see the signs of a predator when they become a little bit older because the signs have been torn away from them.
Right.
So you have women who are wounded and go into these relationships in their adult lives, and they're different people, but it's the same spirit energy. It's
Right.
predatory.
They have invisible wounds. They have invisible wounds.
Exactly.
And they're working on, as I counsel every day of the week, this stronghold called shame.
Mm-hmm.
So my mother and aunties and grandmothers, they were silent sufferers. You didn't talk about the
Right.
incest. You didn't talk about the grandfather that swung from a tree.
Yeah.
You didn't talk about the Rolling Stone father. You didn't talk about the 13-year-old pregnant girl that went away for the summer. You didn't talk about the drugs. You didn't talk about any of those things. And so you're right. This generational issues that we deal with, where some are more vocal and more emboldened, and there are those that are still struggling to voice, to say, I'm tired, to say, I need help, to say, I want, I need. Oh my gosh. And so this is why I'm called the self-esteem doctor, because in my earlier years, Dr. Nicole, I was talking about, achieve your goals, name it and claim it. You can have it, you can make it. And I realized I'm talking to people who hadn't even addressed the shame and the guilt and the abuse and the poverty and the racism and the loneliness and the depression and the mental challenges, the poor mental health and the poor diet. All of those things were getting in the way of them reaching Maslow's hierarchy of self-realization, self-actualization. So I had to go back to the basics and help women to feel good about themselves and take care of their basic needs and get stabilized and ask for what they want. And as you said, go back and get that education, go back and get your power, go back and get your peace. Go back and get your relationship, not your religion, but your relationship with the God of your understanding. Go back and heal and forgive. Forgive mama, forgive daddy, forgive yourself for all of those times that you were sleeping around or misusing money or overeating or trusting.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. What? I'm sorry.
No.
One of my mantras when you talk about just the mental health, one of my mantras is that Jesus plus counseling equals you can't go wrong. And, I have sent scores of women to therapy. And I know that you can't get everything you need on a Sunday morning. Now, some people may be like, oh, what? No. You can't get it on a Sunday morning. You can't get it just trying to church it out. I believe that people are delivered every Sunday. When we were going into the church, people are delivered every Sunday. And, the hard part is staying delivered. It's just like losing weight. It really is easy to lose weight if you follow the regimen. Yeah. But the hard part is keeping the weight off. And that really is what, these things that so easily beset us feel like weight. And so you really have to give yourself permission to be well. Give yourself permission to seek out the help that you need to process what has happened to you, to process how to put the strategies and tools in place. Because to me, that's all that therapy is. It's helping you to get from first base back to home run, and the tools and strategies that you need. Listen, we all have a story. We all have been through. And is to me, Dr. Jewel, why it's so important when women are doing this work that, we're not abusive and manipulative, to people who we can
Right.
see and sense that are, down and trying to find their way, and then looking up to you for assistance.
Right.
This is why abuse, a power is very critical. And you have to be very careful that you are grounded so that you won't bring more harm and hurt to people who you have something inside of you to help them along the way.
Amen. Yeah. I saw this image the other day. I'm going to post it later on my social media, but it's a picture of a woman laying down,
Mm-hmm.
and the caption says, "Where does it hurt?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's a big Band-Aid covering up her whole body.
Right. All over. Yeah.
And, and it's like, we just hurt all over.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said you just can't get healed on Sunday morning, I was talking with a client the other day, and she's gone through a lot of horrific things in her life. And she was sharing with me that when she's doing her drawing and painting, mm-hmm. she's so happy. I said, that's called a natural high.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what happens is that on Sunday morning, we get this natural high, and we're excited, and we're electric, and we're sanctified, and we're full of hope. But then we don't have the tools when we leave there, and then we crash and burn, and then we think that we are not loved by God, and we think we're a failure, and we think that we need that particular experience only to achieve that, to get in that zone. And what I'm hoping that people understand is that the more you're willing to go inside and be broken open, mm-hmm. and to seek help from many different vessels, mm-hmm. The wholeness comes. But we can't just go one place. We have books, we have retreats, we have conferences, we have churches, mm-hmm. we have mentors, we have all types of media now that we can watch. I mean, I watch some amazing talk show experiences that are just on social media, and I'm thinking in terms of the Red Table, mm-hmm. how some of those conversations are so real and so raw. It's like, oh my God, if people could have these real conversations. Mm-hmm. And then I love the fact that it's generational. You got the mother, the daughter, the daughter, and it's like, without apology, my work has been for women. Mm-hmm. And to be able to talk with you today and get your insight is so exciting to me. And mm-hmm. and Dr. Nicole, I'm just going to put it in my prayer basket that you're going to be able to be one of our guests here in our conferences in California. I'm based in California. You're based on the East Coast. But did you know I'm from DC? Did you know I'm from DC?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my father had a jewelry store on 8th and H Street Northeast.
Oh, wow. My grandmother's dry cleaners was on 6th and L Street Northeast.
Come on now. What? I probably passed it as a little girl because we would spend our summers there. And I'd walk down the street holding my father's hand, this 6-foot+ man, this mm-hmm. handsome chocolate man I looked up to, mm-hmm. that I only got to see once a month every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he was so proud of that Black community. He was so proud to be a business owner. He was so mm-hmm. proud. He'd walk down that street and he would speak to everybody. Mm-hmm. And it mm-hmm. wasn't until the 80s that something woke up in me to say, I want to be like my daddy. I want to have my own business. Mm-hmm. And I remember before he passed, he called me and he was having a bypass. And he said, Jewel, I need you to come. I'm having surgery. And you know what I had? I didn't even know I was going to share this, but okay, God. Mm-hmm. I was working on a job and he said, I need you to come. And I said, Daddy, I can't come. He said, that don't make any sense. Mm-hmm. You need to be working for yourself. I'll never forget that. Mm-hmm. That is what has always kept me going in my dry seasons, in my harvest time as an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll never forget what my daddy said, that there is freedom. Mm-hmm. And I come from a line of critical thinkers, people who are proud of their community, proud to serve. He was such a social person. I love talking to people. So I know I got that from him. Mm-hmm. I didn't know I was going to go there, but the point that I need to go back, and the point that I wanted to make is that I love producing conferences, and when this pandemic is over to the point you would feel comfortable traveling, I would love for my uh, wonderful women on the grow sisters to be exposed to you, because girl, they need to hear you. You got some thunder.
Amen.
You got some information. You got the Holy Ghost. You you
Amen.
you got it. You got that energy. You got that love that
Mhm.
that I know that they would appreciate hearing. And I'm so grateful that we're doing this today live.
Mhm.
And I'm so grateful that we've got people watching. I know that many of my tribe are watching today. And I
Mhm.
thank all of you that are watching today. I thank you all for hitting the share button.
Yeah.
Please hit that share button and know that this will be posted on my YouTube channel. I would love for you, Dr. Nicole, to share with my audience how they can reach you and anything that's going on right now that we need to know about.
Okay, thank you. And thank you so much. And, when you started sharing about your father, I want to just point out that what the audience witnessed is this is the power of coaching, how we coach each other and hold the space for each other. And
Right.
what happens when people feel safe in your space,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they just naturally go to an inner place. And
Yeah.
so that to me was just a powerful expression of that, because I know what I bring to the table and
Yes,
just being
ma'am.
in the space with someone. But thank you so much. And so people can go to my website. It's just Nicole S. Mason, NICOLES Mason.com. I'm really excited because I just launched a book collaboration of all African American Christian men, the
Mm,
first of its kind, not been done before. You
wow.
would see some book collaborations, they may have one or two men interspersed with, the rest of the women, but it's all men, 10 men, and they're sharing from a very real, raw, and transparent place as well about the issues that impact men, from
Mm,
child abuse to drug abuse to pornography, and everything in between. And so
wow.
I'm really excited about that. And the men now are being interviewed on some different platforms, just talking about sharing their story and,
Wow.
inviting other men to do likewise. So that's really my focused energy right now, and helping the men. But I am so grateful for this opportunity again to share time and space with you. And, am I coming to California? Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, could you, we come to a close, would you like to share anything that is on your heart? If you had a big billboard and you wanted women to know something about this thing called life and finding your voice and being emboldened and encouraged to do what thus saith the Lord for their particular life, what would you say to them today?
Hmm. So that's good. I have a prayer call that I do every Wednesday morning. And so this morning, the word that the Lord gave me was, let it go and grow.
I
Let
love
it
it.
go and grow.
Yes.
And it is all of the things that hold us back and hold us down, namely our families, namely, people that we love, and, decisions that we've made, places that we find ourselves. And I just believe that this pandemic has been an eye opener for us to get out of the habit of normalcy, whatever
Come on.
that normalcy has been.
Yes.
God has jarred us from that, not to go right back to what we were delivered from, right? And so it really is been, or has been and is, a time to reflect, a time to turn inward. And so my 2 points this morning, because I do a 15-minute homily and then pray for 15 minutes. But my 2 points this morning were, take inventory of where you are and where you have been, and then turn inward. back to what we were talking about earlier, healing yourself and really allowing yourself the opportunity to tap into those places that are under lock and key so nicely. Because a
Yes.
lot of times we are afraid to tap into those places that are deep and dark in us. But that
Mhm.
really is the only way to be able to pull it to the surface, deal with it, to let it go, and then you will grow. So I'm excited about this time period. I know it's been difficult for so many people,
Yeah.
including myself, but I also believe that through challenge comes opportunity for growth and for something new. There was a shift in the atmosphere. It's pivoting and shifting in the
Mhm.
atmosphere.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
we need to take advantage of that for our own lives and be courageous enough to start saying no. Be courageous enough to start saying, that's not serving me. I'm not doing that. I'm not
Yeah.
showing up there. I'm not going to be a part of that committee, that organization, that whatever. It's not serving me anymore. And really being in harmony with where God is taking you so that you can execute, implement your purpose, what you were called to the earth to do, and stop looking and taking so much time to look externally at others. We've been wasting our time.
In what way did you have to pivot during this pandemic? Because a lot of times people look at figures like you and me and think,
Mhm.
oh, they're handling it so well. Oh, look, they're
Mhm.
smiling. Everything is going well. In what ways did you have to pivot during this pandemic to sustain your 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 activities, your projects, your income,
Mhm.
your brand?
Yeah. And for me, the pivot was being okay with not being okay.
I like that. And that's
Really,
called surrender.
yeah, really allowing myself the opportunity to feel what I was feeling because so many people were experiencing hard times around me and death and degradation and loss. And there wasn't anything that I could do. You
Hmm.
know, when before the pandemic, at least I could go over and, commiserate and comfort and just be, in the ministry of presence, what I was taught in divinity school, you just go and have the ministry of presence. But during
Right.
the pandemic, you couldn't even do that. And so really just pivoting and shifting to where we should be anyways. God, you can do it so much better than I can. But because we are such feeling beings and, wanting to be there for people and just really learning the word is surrender, that God,
Yeah.
you have to take care of it. And that was really hard for me because I am one, I love to support the people in my space and,
Me too.
offer words of encouragement and my physical presence. And the only thing I really could do was reach out, send cards, and then those
Hmm.
were late, with the post office.
Yes, yes.
But but really just saying, okay, God, you have it. The other thing too, Dr. Joel, really, increasing my level of mental support, mental health
Mm,
support,
mm.
and really getting the support that I needed as people were reaching to me for support and for help.
Yeah.
And increasing my number of visits to my counselor. Listen, it's nothing wrong with getting support. We go to the doctor for our physical bodies. We should also use our health insurance that is very expensive if you are blessed to have it
Yeah.
to support our mental health. And so those were the pivots and shifts. As you told my counselor, I need more sessions. I need to be
Yeah.
able to talk
Yeah.
and dump how I'm feeling because it was coming in rapid succession. It was coming too quickly.
Hmm.
Not having the time to breathe and to retreat like I was able to do normally. And so then I also increased my exercise. Last month I walked 100 miles in 11 days. Last year I walked almost 300 days, 100 days straight. So I was very intentional
Yes.
about my physical body, my mental health, everything in between. And so that's how I've been able to, not just navigate for myself, but help and encourage others to do likewise.
That is so awesome. This has been so great and so rich. and
Yeah.
so generous in your giving of your spirit. And I just love you and I honor you and I
I
thank
love
you.
you.
And I pray that God continues to bless you and your family and all the desires of your heart. And we're gonna have to do this again. We're just gonna have to do this again.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I hope
Absolutely.
everyone reaches out to you, checks out your website, and everyone that is watching. Won't you hit that share button, please? Hit it right now and share it with your circle of influence because you are a leader. We want to get Dr. Nicole Mason's insights and spirit and message and influence out into the community. And I appreciate you for watching today, Jewel Diamond Taylor's series called Inner Views. Today, my guest was Dr. Nicole Mason. God bless you all. And stay tuned. I'll be back next week with another amazing guest. Stay in the light.